I had spent 6 years building systems that kept cloud sync solutions running like clockwork. 6 years of late nights, weekend calls, and going way beyond what my job description asked for. I was proud of it, honestly. Proud of being the guy everyone counted on when things went sideways. But I never thought one conversation would make me realize how little they valued all of that. Sometimes the people who take you for granted do not realize what they have until it is gone. And sometimes you have to let everything fall apart to prove your point. Before we dive into how quickly things can fall apart, when you underestimate the wrong person, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. And if you have ever felt undervalued at work, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story might just change how you see your own worth. My name is Washington, and I was a senior systems engineer at CloudSync Solutions, a mid-sized B2B software company that provided cloud infrastructure management for corporate clients. On paper, my job was straightforward enough. I managed the infrastructure, kept the databases running smooth, and made sure our automation systems did not crash. Standard stuff for someone with my background and certifications. But here is the thing about my actual day-to-day work. I did about twice what my official role required, maybe more. I had taught myself advanced monitoring techniques that nobody asked me to learn. I built backup systems that existed in the shadows, ready to catch failures before they became disasters. I wrote automation scripts during my lunch breaks that saved the company hundreds of hours of manual work. I stayed late, came in early, and kept my phone next to my bed, because I knew that at 2 in the morning I might be the only person who could fix a critical issue. Let me paint you a clearer picture of what that extra work looked like. I had built this intricate monitoring dashboard that tracked every aspect of our system health in real time. Temperature readings, server loads, database, query, times, network, latency, everything. I created automated recovery scripts that would kick in the moment something went wrong, rerouting traffic, spinning up backup instances, and logging everything for post-incident analysis. Then there was the legacy system, this old infrastructure that dated back to before I even joined the company. Nobody understood it except me. I had spent months reverse engineering it, documenting the weird quirks and workarounds it needed to keep functioning alongside our modern systems. My team consisted of 3 other engineers. Good people competent at their jobs. But they clocked in at 9, clocked out at 5, and did exactly what was in their job descriptions. Nothing wrong with that, honestly. They had boundaries. I just did not. I told myself it was because I cared about the company's success that I took pride in being indispensable. Looking back, maybe I was just afraid of being ordinary. My boss was Gerald Thompson, the director of IT operations. Gerald was in his early 50s, the old-school type of manager who came up through the ranks back when IT was still called the computer department. He cared about numbers, metrics, reports. But he did not really understand the technical side anymore, if he ever did. He was the kind of manager who would micromanage how you formatted your status emails, but had no clue what you actually did all day. Our relationship had always been professional but distant. Gerald would occasionally send a brief email of appreciation when a client praised our uptime or when we hit some quarterly target. But he never really acknowledged all those nights I spent fixing things while everyone else slept. To him, I guess that was just part of the job. Things started feeling different about a month before everything changed. The company hired a new junior engineer named Kyle Anderson. Kyle was young, maybe 25, fresh out of a coding boot camp with a stack of certifications and a confidence that far exceeded his actual experience. He had that swagger of someone who thinks knowing the theory means you understand the practice. Gerald took an immediate liking to him. In meetings, Gerald would constantly ask for Kyle's input praise. His innovative thinking tell him he had real potential. Then came that night 2 weeks after Kyle started. It was a Thursday around 2 in the morning when my phone buzzed with an alert. Database connection failures cascading across multiple client instances. Critical severity. I rolled out of bed, grabbed my laptop, and logged in remotely. Within 30 minutes, I had identified the issue. A memory leak in one of the connection pooling services deployed my pre-built patch and had everything stabilized. I sent a brief incident report, went back to bed, and showed up at the office the next morning like nothing had happened. Gerald's response: a single-line email. Issue resolved. Good. That was it. No acknowledgement of the fact that I had sacrificed my sleep, that I had fixed something in half an hour that could have kept the system down for hours if someone less experienced had tried to tackle it. Just good. Like I had done the bare minimum. But a week later, when Kyle submitted a minor feature improvement, something that probably took him 2 hours and mostly involved copying code from Stack Overflow, Gerald sent this long, glowing email to the entire team. Subject line: great work this week. He spent 3 paragraphs praising Kyle's proactive thinking and dedication to improvement. My name was not mentioned once. That was the first time I felt that nagging sensation in my gut. That quiet realization that maybe all my extra effort was not being seen the way I thought it was. But I pushed it down. Told myself I was being petty, that I should be happy for Kyle, that my work spoke for itself. I kept doing what I always did. Showing up early, staying late, monitoring systems that nobody else even knew needed monitoring. Because that was who I was, right? The guy who kept everything running. I had no idea that in just a few weeks that identity was about to get completely shattered. The quarterly review meeting happened on a Tuesday morning in mid-October. The whole IT department crammed into the conference room while Gerald presented his slideshow about our team's performance over the past 3 months. Uptime percentages, client satisfaction scores, project completion rates. All good numbers, and I knew I was responsible for a big chunk of them. Gerald went through his presentation with his usual monotone delivery. He thanked the team for their hard work, mentioned a few specific projects, and spent what felt like 10 minutes talking about Kyle's contributions to modernizing our documentation. Kyle's contributions. The documentation that I had started and maintained for 4 years that Kyle had maybe added 5 pages to in his entire month of employment. When the meeting ended, I waited until everyone else had filed out. Gerald was packing up his laptop when I approached him. I need to talk to you about my compensation, I said. I have not had a raise in 2 years, and I think my contributions warrant a discussion. Gerald looked up surprised. Budget is tight this quarter, Washington. We can review it next cycle. I took a breath, trying to keep my frustration in check. Gerald, in the last 3 months alone, I have resolved 15 critical incidents, most of them outside of business hours. I built the automated monitoring system that has prevented probably dozens more. I maintain systems that nobody else on this team understands. I think that deserves more than waiting for the next cycle. He sighed, the kind of sigh that said he was already done with this conversation. Look, Washington, I appreciate your work, but let's be honest here. What you do, it is your job. Systems engineering is not rocket science. We have got documentation, we have got processes. You are good at your job, but you are not irreplaceable. Anyone with your skill set could do what you do. Kyle is already picking things up fast. The words hit me like cold water. Not irreplaceable. Anyone could do what I do. But Gerald, I said, feeling my voice tighten, I built most of those systems. I created the monitoring tools, the backup protocols. He cut me off, which is great, but that is what we pay you for. You want to be valuable. Stop acting like you are the only one who can do this work. Frankly, Washington, you are replaceable. We all are. That is business. He said it so casually. Replaceable. Like 6 years of dedication, of sacrifice, of being the safety net that kept this company from falling into chaos, all of that was just standard expected, nothing special. I walked out of that office feeling like I had been punched in the stomach. It was not about the money anymore. It was about the complete dismissal of everything I had given to this place. The realization that in Gerald's eyes, and probably in the company's eyes, I was just another cog in the machine. Easily swapped out. I went home that night and could not sleep. I kept replaying the conversation in my head. Replaceable. The more I thought about it, the more something shifted inside me. I had spent 6 years going above and beyond, doing things nobody asked me to do, sacrificing my personal time, my relationships, my health, all because I believed it mattered. I believed they saw it and valued it. But they did not, or at least Gerald did not. And if Gerald did not, probably nobody else in leadership did either. By 3 a.m, I had made my decision. If I was just another replaceable engineer, then fine. I would be exactly that. Nothing more, nothing less. I would do my job, the job that was written in my official description, and absolutely nothing extra. No more late nights. No more weekend monitoring. No more preventive maintenance that nobody asked for. I would show them exactly what a replaceable engineer looked like, and then they could see how replaceable I really was. The next morning, I woke up at 8 instead of 6. No need to get in early anymore. I arrived at the office at 9 on the dot, the official start time. Usually by 9, I would have already cleared my inbox, checked all the overnight logs, and run my morning diagnostic scripts. Not today. Today, I made coffee first, chatted with a few people in the break room, strolled to my desk like I had all the time in the world. Kyle was already at his desk typing away. He looked up when I sat down. "Hey, Washington. I have been getting some weird errors from that legacy database system. Can you take a look?" I pulled up the documentation folder on our shared drive and sent him the link. It is all in there. The setup guides the common error codes, troubleshooting steps. Should have everything you need. He frowned. I checked the documentation, but this specific scenario is not covered. It is some edge case with the connection timeouts. I sipped my coffee. Then, it is not in my job description to handle edge cases that are not documented. You should escalate it to Gerald if you need additional support. Kyle stared at me like I had grown a second head. "But you built this system. You know it better than anyone." I gave him a polite smile. That may be true, but apparently anyone with my skill set can do this work. I am sure you will figure it out. He looked confused and a little annoyed, but I turned back to my monitor. I had tickets to work on actual assigned tasks, and I was going to do those. On time, within scope, nothing extra. That afternoon I got 3 automated alerts on my phone. Server temperature warnings minor, but the kind of thing that could escalate if not addressed. Usually, I would remote in immediately and adjust the cooling protocols I had set up. Today, I glanced at the alert and deleted it. Not a critical failure. Not my problem unless someone assigned me a ticket. By the end of the week, I had not checked my email outside of business hours once. I had not run my weekly preventive maintenance scripts. I had not updated the monitoring dashboard that only I knew how to interpret properly. On the surface, everything looked fine. The systems were still running. No major incidents had occurred yet. But I knew something Gerald did not. Those systems were only running smooth because of all the invisible work I had been doing. The automated scripts that cleaned up database bloat before it caused slowdowns. The monitoring that caught small issues before they became big ones. The load balancing adjustments I made every week based on traffic patterns. All of that was slowly, quietly starting to deteriorate. It was like watching a car that had not had an oil change. It runs fine for a while. Then one day the engine seizes. I was curious how long it would take. 24 hours after I stopped doing my extra maintenance, the first warning signs appeared. A couple of minor alerts that would normally have triggered my attention immediately. Database query times creeping up slightly. Some backup jobs taking longer than usual to complete. Nothing catastrophic, but the kind of yellow flags that usually meant something needed tuning before it became a problem. I saw the alerts come through, and I deleted them. Not critical. Not assigned to me. Someone else's problem. Kyle tried to handle one of them, but he could not figure out the root cause. The systems I had built were complex layered. They had redundancies built on top of redundancies with custom scripts managing failures in ways that were not immediately obvious unless you understood the whole architecture. Kyle was trying to debug by reading documentation that explained what the systems did, but not why they were built that way, or how they worked together. 48 hours and something more serious happened. The automated database backup system failed. This was a system I had personally designed and maintained separate from the standard backup protocols. It ran every night, creating incremental snapshots that could restore data down to the minute if needed. The company's official backup system was solid, but it only captured snapshots every 6 hours. My system filled in the gaps. When my backup failed, the official system kept running, so nobody noticed. But there was now a 6-hour window where if something went wrong, we would lose data. Kyle got an alert about the failure and spent 3 hours trying to fix it before giving up. He sent an email to Gerald saying he had restored the primary backup system, which was technically true, but he did not realize the primary system was not the same as the comprehensive system I had been running. Around hour 60, the load balancer started acting up. This was more visible. A few clients noticed slightly slower response times. Nothing terrible, but enough that our support team got a couple of inquiry emails. Gerald sent a message to the team asking what was going on. Kyle investigated and found that the traffic distribution seemed uneven, but he could not figure out why. The configuration files looked correct to him. What Kyle did not know was that I had built a custom script that ran every morning analyzing traffic patterns and adjusting the load balancer weights dynamically. Without those daily adjustments, the system was using static weights that were optimized for last month's traffic patterns, not this month's. It was like driving with your parking brake slightly engaged. It worked, but not efficiently. Gerald told Kyle to keep an eye on it. Kyle did his best, but he was out of his depth. Then came hour 72. Friday afternoon, 3 o'clock, middle of business hours, absolute worst possible time. I was wrapping up a ticket planning to leave right at 5 like a normal replaceable employee when I heard Kyle shout from across the office. No. No, no, no. This cannot be happening. I glanced over. His face had gone pale, eyes locked on his screen. Other engineers were gathering around him. Someone said something about the main application cluster being unresponsive. My phone started buzzing. Email alerts, text messages, Slack notifications, all the systems screaming that something major had just failed. The entire main infrastructure had crashed. Not a graceful degradation, a full catastrophic failure. Client applications went offline across the board. Every single one of our major customers lost access to their systems simultaneously. Within minutes, the phones in the office started ringing. Then they did not stop. Support staff running between desks, panic spreading like wildfire. Gerald came bursting out of his office, his face red. What the hell is happening? Kyle was already at his terminal, hands shaking as he tried to diagnose the problem. The database cluster crashed. I am trying to restart it, but it is not coming back up. Every time I bring one node online, it crashes again. Another engineer jumped in. The load balancer completely failed. I think it triggered a cascade. Gerald was shouting now. Well, fix it. This is what we pay you for. Get it back online. They tried. For the next 2 hours, Kyle and the other engineers attempted every standard recovery procedure. Restart the servers, clear the cache, restore from backup. But each action they took seemed to make things worse. At one point, Kyle tried to manually restore a database snapshot, but he chose the wrong one and ended up corrupting additional data. By hour 76, we were not just dealing with downtime. We were dealing with data integrity issues, and the clients were furious. I sat at my desk, watching it all unfold, doing my assigned work like nothing was happening. Because officially nobody had assigned me to work on this crisis. I was just a replaceable engineer doing his replaceable job. The emails from clients started coming in, and they were brutal. FinTech Corp., one of our biggest accounts, sent a message that Gerald accidentally CC'd to the entire IT team. Every minute of downtime costs us $200,000. Our SLA clearly states you will maintain 99.9% uptime. We are currently exploring legal options for breach of contract. HealthSync Medical was even worse. Their email was marked urgent, high priority. We have patients in emergency rooms who cannot access their medical histories. This is a life-threatening situation. We need answers now, and we need to know what you are doing to prevent this from ever happening again. Retail Giant's message came in at hour 77. Black Friday weekend is in 3 days. If this system is not fully operational and guaranteed stable by Monday morning, we are talking 7-figure penalties per your contract. This is unacceptable. Gerald's face had gone from red to pale. I saw him on the phone, probably with the CEO. His voice was strained, apologetic, desperate. He kept glancing over at Kyle and the other engineers who were still frantically trying combinations of fixes that went nowhere. The CEO, Thomas Brennan, showed up at the office around 5:30. I had only met him twice in my 6 years. He did not visit the IT department often. His presence now meant this was bad. Really bad. Thomas pulled Gerald into a conference room. Through the glass walls, I could see Thomas gesturing sharply, his face hard. Gerald looked like he was shrinking into his chair. At 5:45, Gerald emerged from the conference room and walked straight toward my desk. His shirt was soaked with sweat. His tie, loosened eyes, desperate. "Washington," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "We need you. The system, everything is down. Kyle cannot fix it." I looked up from my screen, my expression neutral. That is unfortunate. But I am sure Kyle can handle it. You said anyone with my skill set could do this job right. Gerald's jaw tightened. Washington, please. This is serious. Clients are threatening lawsuits. We are talking millions in penalties. I stood up, slowly began packing my laptop into my bag. Gerald, I am just a replaceable engineer. My shift ended at 5. I am sure you will figure it out. He stepped in front of me, blocking my path. What do you want? A raise, I will approve it. Just tell me what you want. I stopped, looked him directly in the eyes. Now you want to talk about my value. Interesting timing. Name your price, Washington. Please. I set my bag down. Here is what is going to happen, Gerald. I am going home. You are going to spend the weekend realizing just how replaceable I actually am. Maybe Kyle will figure it out. Maybe one of the other engineers will have a breakthrough. Or maybe you will be explaining to Thomas why you let your best systems engineer walk away over a conversation about raises. Washington, he said, his voice breaking. Please, name your price. It is not about price anymore, Gerald. It is about respect. He actually collapsed into my desk chair, his head in his hands. What do you want? I want everything I asked for last week. 25% raise retroactive to last quarter. Senior architect title official in writing. And I want Kyle transferred to a different team. But most importantly, I want you to admit in front of the entire IT team that I am not replaceable. That you were wrong. He looked up at me, his eyes red. That is a lot. You have until Monday morning, I said. After that, I am sure you will find my replacement. Good luck. I walked out, got in my car, drove home, and I turned off my work phone. I spent that weekend doing absolutely nothing work-related. No emails, no calls, no checking the company Slack just to see how bad things had gotten. I went hiking on Saturday, visited a museum on Sunday, enjoyed my life like a person with boundaries. Meanwhile, back at the office, Gerald and the team worked through the entire weekend. I found out later that they were there until midnight. Friday, came back Saturday morning, worked straight through until Sunday evening. Thomas had apparently told Gerald that if this was not fixed by Monday, he was fired. They could not fix it. Every solution they tried failed. They brought in an outside consultant Sunday afternoon, some expensive expert Gerald found, but even he could not untangle the mess. The systems I had built were too customized, too interconnected. You could not just replace one piece. You had to understand how everything worked together, and I was the only one who did. By Monday morning, the downtime had stretched past 72 hours, 3 full days. The penalty fees were mounting. FinTech Corp. had already sent a formal notice of intent to sue. HealthSync Medical had filed a complaint with some healthcare regulatory body. Retail Giant had activated the penalty clause in their contract, demanding $2 million in compensation for the outage during their critical pre-Black Friday preparation period. I walked into the office at 9 a.m. Monday, calm and rested. The place looked like a disaster zone. Empty coffee cups everywhere. Gerald had clearly not slept. His eyes were bloodshot, his clothes wrinkled like he had been wearing them for days. He was waiting for me at the entrance along with the HR director and Thomas Brennan himself. Thomas looked at me, his expression unreadable. Gerald told me everything. He also told me what you want. I nodded. Can you fix this? Thomas asked. Yes. I can have primary systems back online in 3 hours. Full recovery with complete data integrity in 8 hours. Thomas turned to Gerald. And your team could not do this in 4 days. Gerald said nothing. Thomas looked back at me. You have your raise. You have your title. Kyle will be reassigned today. But I need you to fix this now. One more thing, I said. Gerald needs to apologize to me in front of the team. Gerald's pride was visibly wounded, but Thomas glared at him with an expression that left no room for negotiation. Gerald turned to me, his voice quiet. Washington. I was wrong. You are not replaceable. I did not understand how much you did behind the scenes, how many systems depended on your expertise. I am sorry. It was not the most sincere apology I had ever heard, but it was enough. Let me get to work, I said. I went straight to the server room. Within 20 minutes, I had identified the exact problem. When Kyle had tried to fix the initial load balancer issue, he had accidentally disabled the automated failover protocols I had built. Without those protocols, when one system failed, it did not gracefully redirect to backups. It just crashed. And that crash triggered cascading failures across every connected system. I reactivated my recovery scripts. The ones I had written over years tested in dozens of scenarios that existed specifically for catastrophic failures like this. Systems started coming back online one by one, each piece clicking back into place like a puzzle reassembling itself. 2 hours later, the main systems were operational. 6 hours later, all clients were back online. 8 hours later, I had confirmed complete data integrity. Nothing lost. I generated a full incident report documenting exactly what had failed, why it failed, and what I had done to fix it. I sent it to Thomas directly. He called me into his office that afternoon. Washington. I just finished reading your report. I had no idea how much of our infrastructure depended on systems you built independently. Systems that apparently nobody else even knew existed. I shrugged. I saw problems that needed solving. I solved them. Why did you never document this? He asked. I tried. Multiple times. But documentation does not mean much if nobody reads it or understands it. And frankly, nobody seemed interested in what I was doing as long as things worked. Thomas leaned back in his chair. Well, they are interested now. Your promotion is effective immediately. 25% raise senior architect title. And I am implementing a new policy. Any engineer doing work beyond their official scope needs to document it, and management needs to recognize it. No more invisible heroics. A week later, there was a company-wide meeting. Thomas announced my promotion publicly. Gerald had to stand there and introduce me with my new title, his face tight with humiliation. Kyle was transferred to a different, less critical department the same day. I heard through the grapevine that he spent the whole week complaining about how unfair it was, how he could have fixed the system if he had just had more time. Sure, Kyle. 2 months later, Gerald resigned. Or rather, he was asked to resign, which is corporate speak for being fired. Thomas offered me the IT director position, but I turned it down. I am good where I am, I told him. I just want to do my job and be respected for it. Things settled into a new normal after that. I stopped doing the crazy hours. I documented everything properly and started training the new engineers we hired. I built systems that others could maintain, not just systems that only I understood. I took vacations without checking my phone. I had boundaries. And people respected those boundaries because they finally understood what I brought to the table. Looking back, I realized the problem was not that I did extra work. The problem was I let myself be taken for granted. I taught them that my extra effort was expected, not appreciated. When Gerald called me replaceable, he did not realize he was actually describing himself. Within 3 months of that system crash, he was gone. I am still here. The truth is, we teach people how to treat us. For 6 years, I taught them I would always be there, always fix everything, always sacrifice. The moment I stopped, they learned my real value. I am not saying everyone should stop going above and beyond, but know your worth. Make sure the people you work for know it too. Because at the end of the day, no one is truly irreplaceable, but some people are a hell of a lot harder to replace than others. And sometimes the best way to show someone what you bring to the table is to let them eat without you for a while. That system crash cost the company $3.2 million in penalties, lost clients, and emergency consultant fees. But it taught them a lesson worth far more than that. As for me, I am still here doing what I do best, building systems, solving problems, keeping things running. But now I do it on my terms with respect, fair compensation, and boundaries that people actually honor. Have you ever felt replaceable at your job? Have you ever been undervalued or overlooked for doing more than what was expected? Drop a comment below and share your story. I would love to hear how you handled it. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences about standing up for yourself in the workplace. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who is going above and beyond but not getting recognized. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember your value is not determined by how much you sacrifice, but by how much you respect yourself enough to set boundaries. Take care of yourselves out there.